Hey, hey, hey. I am extremely excited right now. I am headed home. I'm on the south side of Cincinnati, so I just made it into Kentucky. And I'll be back home in Atlanta, hopefully, probably around, look about, probably, I'll have to stop again, I know, for sure. Hopefully I'll be able to make it home by 6 or 7 p.m. this evening. Anyways, point is I am extremely excited because while I was at Paul Bunyan, I talked to a lot of people. And while I really enjoy doing that, it is taxing. It would be great if I could do it in small doses, but you can't really. That's the way one of these events work. They're all day, and then it bombarded, right? But several people were quite knowledgeable about many different things. And one guy in particular, I'll just say Jonathan, okay? I met a Jonathan guy, and he basically he gave me the secret to the Husqvarna 5 series, the Husqvarna 5 series. And he explained to me what those transfers are doing and why they made them that way, why they made them so long. They come up, you come down the intake, up out the front of the cylinder, right, on the exhaust side, up around and shoot in. Right? That's a very long transfer. And I had talked about it earlier and trying to figure out why they did it. A lot of people were speculation that they were either trying to cool down the exhaust side of the piston or heat up the fuel, preheat it to get a little bit more, get it more vaporized and stuff so that you got a more efficient burn. And that may be happening, but it's a side effect. So the reason this guy was able to tell me so much is because he spent weeks working with some engineers, and we'll just leave it at that, okay? It's funny how many secrets there are in this world and who gets let in and who doesn't. But anyways, the point is he knows. He is not speculating like all of the rest of us are. There might be a handful of people here and there that truly know and are porting saws. But he knows. And he shared it with me. And so, I'm driving in my truck right now. I can't do much to show you specifically. But basically, we all know that the Strato ports are charging the upper cylinder with air, right? And we know that they're doing that so that it'll burn leaner, which means burn hotter and with more heat. And then with more heat comes more complete combustion and more complete burning of all the carbons that are in that fuel, so that whenever we expel the spent gases out the exhaust, it's cleaner gases, right? And then in the actual muffler itself, the muffler itself has a bit of a catalyst effect, or a catalytic effect. Well, I'm not sure which I should say there, but which means it gets so hot that we finish our burning in the muffler before it goes out. This is why the Husky 5 series burns so hot, okay? It runs so hot. And that's why a muffler mod is so important, okay? So anyways, well, A step past that is what I now know, okay? And I'm feeling great because I'm in one of those zones right now. I don't care if you've been in that zone because you finally figured out the key to remembering and just knowing how to make a pie. You don't have to go back and look at the recipe anymore. It's in your head. It's not just that you remember, it's that you freaking get it. You understand it. You know what's going on making that damn pie, okay? And you know so much what's going on with making that pie that you can easily adjust and make a different kind of pie or even a cake. With me? You know it. You got it. You understand it. Well, now I was really picking up on, I've always understood the cycle of a two-stroke engine. I've always understood it. But whenever I did my Johnson Red 2165, and I see the transfers on that, I told y'all that it had between 18, I told y'all it had 18 degrees of blowdown. In truth, it has closer to 16 degrees of blowdown. But, and honestly, I was embarrassed because I had overshot my numbers. This is one of the reasons I said I screwed up on the cylinder, and I did. But I understood enough about this whole process, and I'm learning so much so rapidly right now. Right now is the time when everything is clicking for my brain, and I have a picture. I see it in my mind's eye so well. And so instead of going back into my Johnson Red cylinder and trying to do something crazy to fix it, I understood that the short blowdown and the reversion that I was getting was because I was not exiting the exhaust fast enough. And so instead of making any changes to my ports, I worked with and embraced what I had, and I opened up the muffler more. And then that thing, boom, came alive and made more power. I did the same thing to the 372, right? If you have a short blowdown, it is crucial that your air leaves fast enough. It is absolutely critical, okay? And so if you do a saw with short blowdown and it doesn't work for you, don't blame the blowdown, blame your muffler, okay? You just got to get or open up the exhaust port, make it bigger. You have got to get the combustion gases out faster, okay? The only reason you have reversion is because the gases aren't leaving fast enough. There are two ways to fix that. One is make your muffler bigger and make it flow better. Two is to raise and or increase the size of your exhaust port, okay, so that it gets out faster, right? Anyways, I could really spill into this a lot because now it is all there. I have it, you know. Like I said, my 2165, I felt like I had too little of blowdown and was getting reversion. Instead of dropping my cylinder further so that I could raise the roof higher and all this stuff to give me more blowdown, I kept the short ass blowdown and I opened my exhaust up more. And my goodness, the little Johnson Red screaming. See what I'm saying? So everything is a freaking balance, man. It's a ballet. Two-stroke engines are an absolute ballet. Four-stroke engines are a freaking boxing match. If you can see them the right way, you can learn how to coax the performance out of them. So back to the 5 Series. The 5 Series is extremely specific, right? Think of your 3 Series saw. Your transfers, let's say they're that long, right? Why are the 5 Series transfers that long? right? Because it's a long way to travel from the carburetor to the upper transfers. 3 Series gets it done right here. 5 Series takes that long. Why? What is happening? Well, it's because the top half, you don't have to understand how it happens. You just have to understand what is happening. The top half of your transfers get packed with fresh air. So we're back to a 3 Series size transfer, right? Basically, the top half gets packed with air. The bottom half is packed with your fuel to air mixture. And it's the perfect amount of air, all right? Husqvarna designed this so that, let's just work in CFM, okay? Cubic feet per minute. That's an airflow terminology, okay? Cubic feet per minute. Let's say it takes 5 CFM of air to properly move through the combustion chamber and clear the combustion chamber of all the spent gases, okay? And get it out the exhaust before your air and fuel mixture, your fuel even comes into the combustion chamber, okay? It takes 5 CFM, a perfect 5 CFM, to get all that shit out before your fuel starts to come in. All right? Well, in a perfect world, what happens with Husqvarna, what they do is that 5 CFM goes in, clears out the combustion chamber, and pushes everything out the exhaust, and then it allows the bottom half of that transfer to expel its fuel-air mixture into the combustion chamber. All right? So that you have nothing but fresh fuel and air in your combustion chamber when it fires. And you don't lose any of that fresh fuel and air out the exhaust. See, a typical 2-stroke, such as your old school, the 3 Series Husqvarnas, in reality, your exhaust should be slightly wet, because an old school design 2-stroke is always going to expel an amount of fuel, unburnt fuel, just wet, unburnt fuel and oil out the exhaust. And that's why your finger gets black and oily whenever you stick it down into the muffler. A lot of people will think if that happens, you're burning too rich. You could be burning way too rich and this happened, you know what I mean? However, a proper jetted 2-stroke engine, your exhaust should always get a little bit wet, okay? That's why, like on dirt bikes, you always see the pipe. Sometimes they'll be dripping black liquid, right? Now, they're running too rich. Sure, it shouldn't drip black liquid. But case in point is that you need to be able, you should have a small amount of liquid fuel leaving your exhaust port, okay? This should be happening, all right? Anyways, well, if it takes a perfect 5 CFM of air, then Husqvarna designed it with 6 cubic feet per minute of air, right? That way, they make sure, and what they do is that last cubic foot of air, they keep it in the combustion chamber, right? So to make sure that no liquid fuel is ever coming out that exhaust. Remember, it takes 5 perfect CFM of air, fresh air, to clear the combustion chamber and get it out the exhaust. Well, Husqvarna goes overkill and gives it 6 cubic feet per minute of air and traps that last cubic feet per minute inside the combustion chamber in order to ensure 2 things. Number one, they're ensuring that you got all of the spent gases out without expelling any fresh, unburnt liquid fuel. That's number one. Number two, the extra air in the upper combustion chamber makes you burn lean and hot. So that way, you're ensuring that everything that explodes inside that combustion chamber burns completely before it gets pushed out the exhaust by the next 6 cubic feet per minute of air. Is this making sense to you guys? You gotta see it in your mind's eye. These numbers that I'm giving you are fictitious for sure, but they should help you to understand. In a perfect world, it takes 5 cubic feet per minute. Husqvarna gives it 6 and traps that last extra cubic foot of air inside your combustion chamber in order to safeguard itself that no liquid fuel is ever going out the exhaust, as well as it also makes it burn leaner, thus hotter. A big common misconception is everybody thinks that lean means more powerful. The hotter burn does not mean more powerful. It means hotter. And if you're lean, then that means that the very nature of that word, you are saying that you don't have enough fuel, right? What makes the power of combustion? It is the actual fuel. And so you want as much of that fuel as you can at the right ratio. If you are lean or fat, either way, you're losing power. You want to be perfect. And perfect is going to mean that you have so much air and fuel mixture in that combustion chamber, a little of it escapes out the exhaust before the piston comes up and seals the exhaust off. That is your perfect world, okay? So, whenever I ported my Red Max, and I think the 545 that I ported for Randy, both of those, I thought I was safer. I'm not sure about the 545, but definitely with the Red Max, I thought I'd be safer to keep the stock profiles and contours of the upper transfers, right? And so I didn't move them. And so I lowered the cylinder down, thus giving me more crankcase compression, and I thought this is going to be a good thing. Turns out I was shooting myself in the foot, right? Because what I just did, if we go off of the CFM numbers, the fictitious numbers I've been using right now, what I just did was I went from having an already too much 6 cubic feet of air, too much, right? And then I dropped my cylinder, which thus dropped the transfer, the upper transfer height, which means I am literally now, instead of 6 cubic feet of air, I've got 8, 7 or 8. So I've got way too lean of a mixture up top, you know? And that's, the heat thing aside, doesn't exactly matter. What matters is I don't have enough fuel getting in there, right? From factory, the way that those transfers are set up, you've already got too much air. And just like a factory cylinder, if you just simply took it and raised the transfers a little bit, you'd be able to flow out more as long as your exhaust is open, right? I mean open, okay? So, I've got to go back into my Red Max, and I've got to take those transfers and raise them, because the fact that I left them at the factory height and I lowered the cylinder, I just negated all of the machine work that I did. I completely negated it. It didn't work because I've got probably about 8 degrees of transfer duration that is, and ultimately I guess 16 degrees if you look at it the other way. I probably got about 8 degrees of transfer duration that is being wasted trying to get rid of the air that has been packed into the top of my transfers, right? So I got to raise the shit out of my transfers and make sure the exhaust flows well in order to let everything out, because I'm going to have really short blowdown. Really short blowdown. Anyways, I hope you hung in there. That is a lot of shit to be dropping in one brain at one time. And I had the absolute pleasure. I can't even tell you. I'm a total nerd with this stuff. And me and him, so I got to talk to him one-on-one. And so one-on-one conversations are so much better than stuff like this, right? Because you get to pop in at any moment to ask something for clarity, right? You guys out there don't get to do that. The best you can hope for is that you ask a question in the comments and I find time to return it, and answer it. But I don't typically answer many of the comments. It's just not my thing. I try and answer some and everything, but anyways, it's harder than you think. It is, roughly on average. You think about it, I've got almost 1,000 videos. All right, so those old ones are still being watched and getting comments and stuff. So every time I drop a new video, it's around 40 comments, and then you got 20 comments on old videos. So that's 60 a day, man. So I just kind of give up, But anyways, it was cold out. God, it was into the 40s, and me and Jonathan were standing there talking, and we had gone behind the van in order to have some quiet and stuff, and we're just talking, and finally, we're like shaking and shivering and stuff, and I was like, man, people are gonna think we're making out in the truck, but I don't give a shit. Come, you want to get in the truck and keep talking? We got in the truck, we was able to warm up, and we just talked and geeked out like you wouldn't believe, because any way I say this is going to sound really like a douchebag. But the reality is whenever I talk about this shit with other people, very few of them can keep up. It doesn't mean I'm smarter than them. I just know more about internal combustion engines. And so it is wonderful to get a chance to have somebody that I can learn from on a real engineering level. It was fantastic. It was amazing. I did heating and air conditioning whenever I was in the Air Force. I taught heating and air conditioning while I was in the Air Force. And I was the kind of guy that the more technical areas, I was the guy to teach those. It just worked out that way. And I think I'm good at it. I can understand it. I'm better at and everything, but I'm not better. I'm just better at the technical shit. I get it, okay? I should have been an engineer or a God, what's it called? What are the mathematicians that they're not physics? I should have been into physics. Physics or engineering. I mean, I'm happy with my life. We're good. But if you were to look at my strengths and my strong points, it would be engineering and physics. That's the way my brain works. But anyways, the point is like, I knew a guy for like 3 years. All right. His name's Bob, Robert, Bob, whatever. I knew him for like 3 years. Good guy. He's a friend of a friend. And, you know, whenever they'd have like 4th of July get-togethers or Halloween get-togethers or something, I always, you know, hey, Bob, you know, what's up? You know, we talk and everything, this and that. Well, after about 3 years of knowing the man, I decided to ask him, because he said something and I was shocked by his knowledge. I was like, so what do you do, Bob? You know? And Bob goes, I'm an engineer and I work for Johnson Controls. And I was like, what? And we started geeking out like you wouldn't believe about pneumatic and electronic controls systems and for heating and air conditioning. That's what he does. That's what he does. And he's like, he's like, yeah, I can understand how you really feel unfulfilled because you don't have anybody in your life that you can truly talk about this stuff with on your same level. And he's like, me, I go to work and all my peers, this is what we do. And so last thing I want to do whenever I come out of work really is talk about my job. But like, I taught that shit for a few years, you know, and anyway, so that's what it was like talking with Jonathan. And listen, I have learned a lot from a lot of people about this chainsaw shit, okay? Not all of my knowledge carried over. It just meant because I knew this, then I picked up the other stuff quickly, right? So I am very thankful for all the stuff that I've learned, you know, but videos will be coming out about stuff, right? And just be happy with your man, Bodie, okay? Because I've still got a lot to learn, no doubt about that. But here I am. I am reaching, knowledge-wise, I am reaching the upper echelons, okay? It's working out. It's happening, and I'm like, oh, God, yeah, baby. And so I'm really excited. And I hope you guys are too, because everything I know is going to get passed along. You know, I'm going to hand that stuff out like candy. And because I was never in the Marine Corps, but I believe in no man left behind. Unless you're a prick, right? If you're a prick, fuck you, I'll leave you bleeding and dying on the battlefield. I don't care, right? But if you're cool and you want to learn and you got an open mind and everything, I want to bring you along too. I don't feel like holding secrets, you know? And I'm just really happy and excited right now. Because I was already there right at the cusp and talking with Jonathan and John Bob as well. John Bob is really sharp. Really sharp. Aaron's great too. Aaron Lynch, I don't want to take anything away from him. He's great. He's great. But he's like the muscle. John Bob's the brain. They're both smart. But John Bob he's on it. And Aaron would say the same thing. He is quick, brothers. And so I had a good time. I'm glad it's over. Can't wait to get home. But yeah. And if I forget to do videos on this 5 series stuff, first off, you gotta understand I got a busy week. And then I'm heading right back up here to go to Sawfest and come back. So I'm not going to be able to handle it this week. However, remind me. I read the comments. Remind me to do the videos about the 5 series and blowdown. Those big things. Because what you think you know about blowdown, you don't know. Blowdown is just an empty word that we use. It's a metric. It's a metric. No power can ever be made with blowdown. You can lose power, but you can't make power with blowdown. There are other things going on that are creating the power whenever you change your blowdown. All right, that's enough. That's a long video. Thanks for hanging in there. See you guys.